Welcome to the wonderful world of Strange Suspicion True Crime series.
Hi guys, I just wanted to take a moment and remind you to like the video, comment, share, and if you're able, become a member. They start at $2.99. If that's not your thing, I also have Cashapp and Venmo. Bobby and I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Your support goes a long way. And remember, our videos are free, so if you can't support financially, just remember a like is just as grand. Now on to the show!
Hey guys, welcome to Strange Suspicion. So welcome to the Sus Gang, Strange Syndicate, Insanely Suspicious, Red Room Crew, and visitors of this channel. If you're new here, please press that subscribe button, like button, and leave your comments down below. This community is very respectful. You can feel safe leaving your comments without fear of rejection, disrespect, or any kind of personal attack. We monitor our comments to make sure that you are respecting our rules, which is to be curious rather than disrespectful. A lot has happened in the Brian Kohberger case recently. There was a hearing which I felt was extremely childish. I knew it was gonna be, guys. That's why we do our lives on Thursdays and Saturdays. I've heard that a lot of these hearings are going to be taking place on Thursdays, so we may or may not, if you want to leave your comment or your suggestion down below whether or not we should do that live, we could go ahead and go to Judge's channel like every other true crime channel does and give you that live footage from the hearings if you would like. So otherwise, on Thursdays we'll go live and we will do whatever is current, and I encourage you to please not be afraid to come on panel because we enjoy talking with you, not just at you. This hearing that took place seemed more like a feud.
And now, the star of our show, Bill Thompson.
Here's where we get to things that concern the state immensely. Question: have you read, seen, or heard if Brian Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania?
Survey said.
Question: have you read, seen, or heard if police found a knife sheath on the bed next to one of the victims? Question: have you read, seen, or heard that DNA found on the knife sheath was later matched to Brian Kohberger? Question: have you read, seen, or heard if Brian Kohberger owned the same type of car recorded on video driving in the neighborhood where the killings occurred?
Weak.
Have you seen, read, seen, or heard if the cell phone tower data showed that Brian Kohberger made several trips near the victim's home in the month before the killing? Have you read, seen, or heard if the university students in Moscow and their parents lived in fear until Brian Kohberger was arrested for the murders?
It seemed like
Have you read, seen, or heard if Brian Kohberger said that he was out driving alone on the night of the murders? Have you read, seen, or heard if Brian Kohberger stalked one of the victims? Have you read, seen, or heard if Brian Kohberger had followed one of the victims on social media? Your Honor, there is absolutely no question but that those questions are disseminating by means of communication evidence expected to be presented, evidence that could be or would be inadmissible at trial. And I will say there are a number of these representations placed in the form of a question, but representations of fact that are not true or that would not be offered at trial. The defense says, well, all of this information is out there in the public media somewhere, but that misses the point. That's assuming that every person in Latah County who is called has followed all of this nonsense in social media, has followed extensive coverage, There are people who consciously avoid reading coverage or listening to coverage about this case because they don't want to. That's where we're standing right now, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. So then how can we compare unless you use the same questions? That's the problem. I mean, the damage has been done.
Well, that's one argument to make, but we don't want to perpetuate the damage that was done. And if they want to do a comparison, then they could have another survey in Latah County and do a responsible survey questionnaire instead of one tainting this people. And frankly, they should ensure that they don't go to the same phone numbers that they preloaded with this other factual information when they make their legitimate survey inquiries.
I'm concerned about that, Ms. Taylor. So go ahead, your turn.
Your Honor, we have Brian Edelman ready to testify by Zoom about these surveys if the court would hear his testimony.
First, I want to hear about the process. I care more about how this came down than what he did, although I just learned for the first time that you had nothing to do with the questions.
I didn't write the questions, Judge. Those questions are generated by Brian Edelman, and he can tell you who he is and his educational background and why the questions are crafted as they're crafted. But I approved him doing this survey. This is not an anomaly. These kinds of surveys are done in high-profile cases quite often. I don't know how I could present to the court what's going to be required at the venue change hearing without understanding what is going on with the public. This is an anonymous survey. This is not one where anybody's identified as far as the defense wants to know this or the prosecutor wants to know this. It's a random survey, and there's a reason why there are general questions and more specific questions, and Mr. Edelman can explain that, but I'll do my best to paraphrase that.
Okay, well, I'm just curious. Did Mr. Edelman was he aware of the dissemination order?
I don't know if he was aware of that or not, but we gave him no information in the case, Your Honor. He received nothing from us as far as no police reports, no contact with our client, no interviews. He received no information. His entire construct of this survey is as he does in his high-profile cases. He pulled the media local to this area to see what the most common stories were. Those are things that are in the public arena. This court and counsel knows how much coverage this case has received. And he does what he does by looking only at what's in the public. We didn't provide him any police reports. We didn't.
I'm sorry. It's just that does miss the point. I mean, it's kind of ironic that we have worked so hard, including you, okay, both sides, to protect a fair trial, okay? And our concern from the very beginning was all the media stuff floating around, okay, that affects your client, Mr. Koberger, to get a fair trial. And some of these questions actually create a concern about, that they're inculpatory. It could be prejudice for his client, okay? And that I'm just surprised that both of you didn't come together and say, there are certain things that we probably shouldn't put into the public on a telephone call. It really concerns me, and that's why I did what I did that Friday. Now I'm being accused of violating a due process, which is a whole big issue for me.
I can understand that would not be taken away. I have to represent my client to the best of my ability. And the reason for that, Your Honor, with all due respect, I was shocked to see the court issue an order within hours of the state filing a motion late on a Friday without giving us a chance to be heard. And that's going to delve into our argument on due process. But since it came up and since that feels like the elephant in the room right now, I think maybe we should just go ahead and address that.
Sure.
And that was my motion. And I asked you to set aside the order that you made without having a chance to hear from us, making a decision that now you're locked into. And it was a one-sided
I'm not
decision.
locked into anything.
And now, coffee break with Danky the Clown.
All right, let's do this. Coffee, guys.
The judge has a lot of worries about getting in trouble. The prosecution kind of coaching the judge, and it seems like Ann Taylor not wanting to take any shit. Meanwhile, the defendant, the accused, sits in silence, probably fuming inside his head about how long this is going to take. Same as Christy and Steve Goncalves.
My order didn't say it was permanent,
Maybe
and
I,
it told you that I was going to have a hearing.
maybe I phrased that very poorly. It's a decision that you already made. This survey was never intended to do anything but identify issues within this county to support or defeat our argument for venue change. When you hear from Brian Edelman, which I don't know if you have to now because I've said most of the things,
I'm
if
happy to hear what he has to say if you want him to be said
you
to me.
would know, and you probably know from his affidavit, sometimes he recommends against venue change.
Sure.
Because it's not there. He's done with Latah County. The results aren't compiled yet. I anticipate he'll recommend we change venue. Where we are now is we'd like to finish the other two counties. You don't have to do two.
You did say that he said that Latah County is biased.
I anticipate he's going to recommend we change venue for that reason.
All right, Mr. Thompson or Mr. Nye?
I'm not sure that the due process issue is something that's at issue right now.
I think I already made it. This decision. I mean, based on the facts and the law. I mean,
There's no due process violation here.
no.
There is nothing wrong. In fact, law contemplates that the court can take emergency action to stop something and call a timeout until it affords everybody the opportunity to have their say and the court can make a final decision. That is all Your Honor did here. And I would suggest, Judge, that it would not be prudent or proper for Your Honor to change or limit your own authority on that. I think that you have to continue to reserve to yourself the ability to act quickly, to cause a timeout if you are alarmed sufficiently to justify that, and to give the parties an opportunity to appear before you and sort it out. Before,
I'm not going to change that. That's for sure, because the law allows me to do that.
yes, sir.
And I know what due process needs.
And I say that only in light of an email that your staff attorney sent to us the other day ago that suggested that maybe the court was not going to be entering orders without full hearings with everybody.
Oh, well, but Ms. Taylor wanted, she said, from here on out, we're going to talk about that too. Because now I understand, because I haven't seen it yet, because I didn't have a computer, that you are stipulating to sealing all the discovery stuff. And I just stopped, okay, in terms of signing on those orders that you're sending me, because I don't want to be accused of doing the wrong thing. And there's another situation that you brought up, Ms. Taylor, about that there was a prior thing where I had done that about the IPD.
Yeah.
And the state asked to do a public order just to say that we provided the IDG or some of the IDG to you. And that doesn't really say anything except that. But you were criticizing me for that too.
Your Honor, to be clear, it's not the content of that order. My concern is the process.
They have been, in your Honor's words, they have been injected with that information. That is a clear violation of the non-dissemination order. To think there's a distinction between putting something out in a press release and talking to a private citizen is a distinction without substance. Those are both public contacts. And I can guarantee that if I went down to the bar and had a few drinks and was talking with some people and say, hey, did you know about this about the Kohberger case? And the defense found out about it, they would go ballistic. And for good reason. That should never happen. But that's exactly what's happened here. Not by Ms. Taylor. I'm not faulting Ms. Taylor for the questions themselves, but by the people they hired to do this. We are dealing with the issue of these questions in the survey. They are completely inappropriate. We have a group of at least 400 people in Lake Tahoe County who have been exposed to this in violation of the non-dissemination order. I think Your Honor is probably right. The only way we can deal with, or the best way to deal with that, would be to exclude them from any prospective jury pool. But we sure as heck don't want to say to the defense's consultants, yes, go do this in other venues as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of interested in, trying to figure out when we have to start all over, how to approach this. And I mean, one of the things that I'm kind of concerned about is how much this costs taxpayers' money. And I have no idea. I'm not part of the money, part of this. But, you know, if there's a way to kind of salvage something, I'm not happy about these specific questions, especially ones that are false. Then people hear that and they just get even worse sort of impression. Okay, Mr. Kobe. There are also cases that are questions that are very specific that are going to be major issues in trial. Any objections, Taylor?
In large part, no. There is a sentence in there where the state talks about evidence they plan to present, and that would seem like something they may want redacted before it became in the public record. Our response didn't have anything like that. I can show Mr. Thompson later, so in case he wants to prepare a redacted one for the board.
You know what she's talking about?
I don't, but we can talk about it, Judge, and Ms. Taylor can just show us or send us what the language is. I'm sure we can work it out.
Okay. And so, and I guess this we are already covered by the stipulation. Defendant's motion to file Exhibit M attached to defendant's 14 supplemental requests for discovery.
That would be covered by today's stipulation.
Okay. Okay, I think I've had my speech. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
so we don't need to hear from Mr. Nye or Mr. Edelman at this point.
I don't believe so. I think that it may be more prudent for Ms. Taylor and Mr. Edelman to talk between themselves first, and I believe the due process issue that Mr. Nye was prepared to discuss has been resolved.
Okay, I have no doubt that I did not violate due process rights
Yes, sir.
of Mr. Combs.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Taylor?
Not today, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, great. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
One of the subscribers of our channel suggested that we go watch this live interview. And from what I saw, Stephen Calvez and Christy, they're pretty sick of waiting. Probably as sick as Brian Koberger, who originally stated in Pennsylvania he was excited to get to Idaho so he could get rid of these charges, because he is probably not guilty. And the reason that I say that is because I don't think anybody would be in a hurry with the knowledge of criminology, the knowledge he had. Something very basic you would know is which state is and which state isn't a death penalty state. And being that Idaho is a death penalty state, if he was guilty, he wouldn't be in any hurry to get back there and be charged with his crimes and stand before a firing squad. That's not something somebody logical and educated would be part of his plan. So everybody's waiting for something, and we have to wait through all of these professional people who can't even seem to get their shit together.
I was going to do them, and you'd have things to do, and I would expect for you to have them done on time as well. I mean, I think that's what a judge should do. But we just go in there and we drift around, and him and Haw, and everyone talks about how complicated the case is. Like, if we repeat it 3 or 4 more times, that's going to help. And, you know, we were running out of patience. You know, that's what
she says she has, all this terabyte, how many terabytes of stuff. Well, if that's how much she has and she has to go through, we're never going to get there. So should we just hang it up now and be like, well, if you have to go through that much information, and we know why she has to go through that much information, because she's trying to desperately find something to, save this person. But if she's got that much information that she's got to go through, we might as well just hang it up, because that's going to take forever.
It's weird to me that they can't even conversate without disrespect. They can't even cooperate in any one of these hearings just to say what the elephant in the room is. And I guess we're not going to know what that elephant in the room is until we get that magical court date. How much time is going to spend on arguing and then finally releasing information to the appropriate prosecution or defense? Be transparent. I thought that was our justice system. I thought that's how it went, guys. What did I miss? Am I the clown? Are they clowns? I don't understand. I thought I was the clown. I thought I was going to make the jokes here. There are certain states, certain judges, laws that protect the misorganization of evidence, the miscommunication between the prosecution and defense. Part of the plan is this, so it's a mistrial? Is this a, dare I say, distraction of some sort? What do you think? Everything is being discussed beyond Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. I don't know what justice has been served for these 4 victims. These victims who were possibly tortured before being unalived by person or persons. Just seems like there would have been more than one person had Brian Koberger been involved. Who trapped Kaylee in Maddie's room? Who closed the door and put Murphy in the other room? Who called Jack's phone over and over and over? And why wouldn't Jack have answered? Did Jack call his own phone? Is that why he didn't answer? I mean, if we're picking apart audio from Linda Lane, which is a football field away, and Jack lived less than a football field away, and he was in his bed. Allegedly. At the time it happened, he was fast asleep. How drunk was he? How passed out was he? To not hear 4 people get killed. That's where they got killed, right? That's the story, right? These questions that they brought up in this hearing, insane. Which one of those didn't you hear? Please comment down below if you... All of these things don't match up. All of these things don't cohesively go together. Not to us, not to Ann Taylor, and not to the Goncalves family. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching this video. I understand that that hearing was long and kind of confusing. I think that there's an entire piece of this case missing. And I think that we're getting really close to it when we examine the people who have been cleared very, very early on. People who would have known keypad codes and people who were very, very close to that house, as well as its victims. parental instincts are strong, and sometimes parental instincts are misguided. Perhaps somebody misguided the instincts of the Goncalves family. That person is walking, climbing, running, and drinking, partying freely. But I refuse to do that. Thank you all for joining me in this video. I do appreciate each and every one of you, paid members as well as unpaid subscribers. If you forgot, please press that like button. If you're new here, please push that subscribe button and suggest some content and leave your thoughts below in the comments. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you on the live on Thursday. We can discuss anything you want, guys, and you're welcome on the panel, whether you want to show your face or not, and whether you want to speak about something you think we will agree about or not. We are more than willing, Bob and I, to sit and speak with you instead of at you. Join us Thursday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, guys.
I'm Herb Burnley. Thanks for joining us today on Strange Suspicion. Good night.